Good afternoon, people. Apologize for the delay. Yeah. As you can see, I have started a new channel, which will primarily just be a shortened, clipped version of this channel. So this channel will be primarily live streams, what have you, various Air Force related videos. I'll try to limit this channel to the Air Force content as well as just various live streams, while the other channel will be everything else that I enjoy talking about, which is primarily everything. I tend to have an opinion on most things, which may or may not be healthy for a person of my position. But yeah, that's me trying to branch out, just switching it up, new and improved, adjusting as I know to do. Real quick, I'm just gonna check out the audio real quick. Good afternoon, people. Sounds good. All right. So I watched a video earlier today. As you guys know, I definitely enjoy consuming content. That's why I'm glad to be a part of the YouTube community. But yeah, watched the video earlier on the CIA. It's not normal to have first-person accounts coming out of the CIA. It's probably one of the most secretive organizations up there with the NSA, with DIA, with the various acronyms that tend to float around the DMV area, DC, what have you, Northern Virginia. And so with that, of course, I'm heavily intrigued when there's an individual going, making their rounds due to their, newly released book. I believe the title was Rules of Moscow, which of course I plan on reading. So I'll be getting that from Audible, eventually. But there was one video in particular, it was just an interview. And of course, as I began to listen, I started hearing the nuggets coming out of it. Just words of wisdom from a position that is quite rare in nature. An officer in the CIA. She is Jonah Mendez. Jonah, one of those. And of course, we live in a day and age where equality is pursued greatly and with great vigor. And so we have a female, a woman, who's very accomplished. 27 years in the CIA, chief of disguise. What does that even mean? Chief of disguise. Amazing. Responsible for making masks, masking identities, creating new ones, making duplicates of identities. I was so intrigued to kind of dive into her past. Obviously, I would go to Wikipedia. I started looking up her various interviews. She has a TED Talk. But of course, throughout her interview, you start hearing these patterns and these wise words coming from her, that apply to all of life. Because of course they work at the tip of the spear. So you have someone who risks their life in most cases on a daily basis. Obviously you have those extremes where you're in a different country, and she makes reference to that, especially in the book Rules of Moscow, working in the enemy's territory, which of course we'll get to later. I took a lot of notes. It was like a 27-minute video, I think. And yeah, I have a nice little you got some content here. Let me see where we at. See, the thing about the Sony cameras, they don't lose focus. I can put anything in front of this camera and my face will stay in focus. Amazing. It's definitely worth the upgrade. Anybody thinking about starting a YouTube channel? A6400. Not the best for vlogging, but when it comes to FaceTime, like sit down videos, talking head videos, highly recommend. It will not lose you. It's amazing. Anyway, so yeah, Jonah Mendez, 27 years in the CIA as the chief of disguise. She married into the CIA, which is more than interesting. Her husband was in the CIA before she was, and she was just doing odd-end jobs, working here and there, but decided to go all in at some point, and yeah, made it a career. Amazing. And honestly, it sounds weird to just think of someone who can kind of just walk into that position, walk into a job at the CIA, It doesn't sound like something that they put ads in the newspaper. We're looking for a desk clerk. Someone who can do what have you. So it's highly interesting how she began her journey, and I don't plan on going through her entire biography. But I took some notes on a couple things she said that just stood out. So first couple things. Why I like the video I watched. I am intrigued by our ability as humans to lie. Furthermore, I'm intrigued by humans and our willingness to believe a lie. It's absolutely amazing how, and obviously we live in a day and age where there's a surplus, there's sheer volume, just large amounts of just information being blasted at us constantly. No shortage of information. It's almost why I kind of value newspapers a little bit more than I do the internet, because it takes longer to put it out. You have to be more intentional with what you write down versus what you post on Twitter. There's a time gap, and with a newspaper, you can't waste that energy. Obviously, you're wasting paper. So the physical properties of paper is not easy to come by versus 140 characters on Twitter. So there's a major difference in the amount of effort and friction that's required to post something, to the various networks that we frequent. So yeah, why are humans so quick to just believe anything? When you have a surplus of information, that almost implies that you will go in search of truth by using the surplus information. And obviously it takes work to weed through all of that. But we still live in an age where as long as you're first, that's what matters. Being first is prioritized over being correct, being accurate, being truthful. Truth is relative nowadays, where everyone has their own version. But even with that, being our own reality, truth still exists. It's still there. There's my opinion, there's your opinion, and then somewhere in between or somewhere completely outside of that, there's actual truth that exists. So yeah, I'm definitely intrigued by deception. We all expect loyalty from a world that does not value or prioritize or incentivize rather loyalty. Why would we expect that in our relationships if we don't even use that in our friendships? We don't value loyalty in our subscriptions, in our contracts, in our jobs. There used to be a time where 2 weeks notice used to be normal. Now we just kind of just did. Luckily for me, unfortunately for me, I can't walk away from the job. The Air Force kind of frowns upon people that don't show up to work. The UCMJ kind of helps us along with that. But yeah, deception is interesting. If you go on an average date, you have two different people from different worlds, different walks, entering a date, with their own goal in mind. And very rarely do we actually share the truth of why we are here. I burned gas, you burned gas. I got out of the bed, you got out of the bed. I got dressed, you got dressed. I went through my hygiene routine, you went through your hygiene routine. We go to a restaurant, we pick out a restaurant, we sit down, we get reservations. I'm dressed up, you dressed up. We sit down at a table and we discuss everything but what we are there for. Interesting. What if there were a world where we just showed up and told the truth? I believe there's a show on Netflix, I believe it's it's by Ricky Gervais, something in regards to the origin of lying and why we lie nowadays. It's highly intriguing, the origin of saying something that is not so much truthful, but it's what the other person wants to hear. There's a ton of money to be made by telling someone what they want to hear. Pandering to someone's, insecurities or their deeply held beliefs, and just kind of padding that, just giving them more. Why is that? So yeah, that was probably to lay the groundwork for the rest of the notes, and just why I even came across the video, why I enjoyed watching the video, is that I'm just intrigued by human nature. Some will call it the red pill. It's just the truth of human nature and why we do certain things, what incentivizes us to do certain things. There's various reasons why we will lie to someone, why we will omit the truth, why we'll tell part of the truth. There's plenty of reasons why, but of course, it's still a reality. Anyways, so she mentioned a couple things in the beginning as far as some pillars of being in the CIA, being an officer in the CIA. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm not going to lie to y'all. I would love to work for the CIA. Not so much that I want to be boots on the ground, that I want to be in a different country doing the dirty work, or being chased. I hate being chased. I absolutely hate it. Hate it, hide and go seek. I hate playing tag, musical chairs. I hate racing the clock, racing time. I hate that. That's why I get up early, so I take my time. I hate being rushed. And so, of course, there's some positions at the CIA that I can kind of infer that would simply just be turbulent in nature. So, of course, I'm partly intrigued by just the atmosphere of secretive organizations such as the CIA. But first thing she kind of mentioned was intuition, and how there's a battle in today's society for whether or not intuition is valid, whether or not it's relevant in comparison to numbers, metrics, analyzing, rationality, if you will, thinking logically. Is there a major difference between your intuition, something that you feel, something that's in your gut, something your conscience can't seem to put into words or into actuality? It's not tangible. You can't measure it, but it's there. And to go with it or not to go with it is always the battle. Do I trust my intuition? Do I look at the numbers? Do I go off, dare I call it faith? Faith tends to be based off evidence. At least if you look at the way the Bible describes faith, it's evidence-based. Evidence that there's all these different variables, and by measuring them, you come to a conclusion, and there may not be exactly connected, but there's too much evidence to not believe, if that makes sense. So she talks about intuition and how there will come time, especially in her position, where you didn't have the proof in front of you. You didn't have evidence in front of you, but you had evidence. You had intuition. Those moments where you just kind of went with your gut, and it may have saved your life. It was the right decision in the moment. She talked about this one exercise that Obama went through. It wasn't so much exercise that he went through. It was actual reality for him. But for, I believe it was a museum in D.C., again, all the details are crystal clear up here when it comes to putting it out. It's a whole thing. But yeah, she mentioned one particular event where Obama had to make a decision concerning sending helicopters in, sending the boots on the ground, from whatever organization there is, or there was rather, into the certain situation, the certain predicament. And it came down to him making a decision in the moment that the numbers showed it was a 50-50 chance of the mission being successful. And he decided, send them in. And based off the numbers, it could have failed. It could have been successful equally in terms of percentage of, the ratio to success. So he made a gut decision, as she described it. And there will come moments in your life where you will have to make a gut decision. I'm not a huge fan of them. The way we, those of us watching, all 11 of us, including myself, we live in a day and age currently where there's enough information online for you to make a decision based on evidence. There were some decisions I can admit could come down to, the numbers are not in my favor, but I'm going to do it anyway. And it may become, it may end up favorable, in your own right. But, just as much, it could end up the worst decision of your life because you ignored all the metrics. And of course, hindsight is 20/20. And so it's easy to look back and say, I made the wrong decision, I made the right decision, and get all the glory or the fault for it. But, I can see where the two would pair greatly together, not so much separately. There comes a time where the numbers is all that matter. Mathematics is one of those moments where you don't need your emotions. You don't need your gut to tell you what 2 + 2 is. It is what it is and will not change. And then there's moments where you have a friend, and sometimes the solution is just simply to give a hug, to hold a hand, to rub a shoulder. And maybe that's the solution that did not require any evidence. It just required you to be human and to feel something. It's interesting. And of course, it takes time, sometimes a lot of time, to develop those skills, especially in areas of intuition. What else we got? She mentioned how, especially in Moscow or just in Russia, in certain regions in general, you will always be surrounded by those who are suspecting you to be Americans, especially when you are. Um, it probably wouldn't be that hard to find out whether or not somebody's coming from America. You know, those flights would probably just be ridden with KGB, agents. The lady serving you or the man serving you, hors d'oeuvres and coffee and alcohol, whatever. You know, they might suspect you. But one thing she mentioned was like whenever you're on the streets of Moscow, you're in the streets of a forbidden land, you're the opposition's land, arena. Never look back. Never look back. Never assume that you're alone, but always assume that you're being watched constantly, that you're being followed. Assume that, which as I thought about that, I was like, that's amazing how that seems so like my anxiety would be on 10 if I know someone's following me. And then, obviously you catch a mirror every now and then, you catch a reflection and you realize, wait, I am being followed. You keep seeing the same face over and over again, the same car, 5 minutes later, I saw you. I saw that same beard. I saw the same color hat. You start noticing patterns, but she mentioned you don't look back. You assume that they're there. And even when they are there, when they aren't there, you assume that they are there, that you're being followed. And it spoke to the way I interpret it is staying on offense. Working through and during chaos. And then the last note, to kind of finish that thought is to never assume, again, this greatly reflects 2020 and where we currently sit in 2021, as far as the chaos tends not to go away. Everything that was created in this world was due to a problem that was once unaddressed, and now it is addressed. We have laptops because communication needed to be more spread out. We have cell phones because we needed communication. We needed devices that were smaller, more convenient, more powerful. We have mouses because the little pad on the laptop was once not sufficient enough. Everything you see around you, everything that you're utilizing on a daily basis or, sporadically, it was once there, nothing. It's a result of someone who solved a problem. And of course, in my own life, it is what it is. I show up, I wake up every single day, and whether or not I'm happy, whether or not I'm excited, whether or not I'm depressed, whether or not I want to be there, whether or not I'm willing or, motivated, there's certain things I cannot negotiate with when it comes to my long-term goals. This live stream being one of them, because trust me, I did not want to do this today, but here we are. I was in no mood to turn on a camera and talk to people and try in any way, in any fashion, to provide value to someone else. But when I think about where I just came from, when I think about the leave I was just on, and the valuable experiences and the exposure and the beautiful environments and the vibes thereof, and I think about those things and how I missed them already, I realize, hey, if I do these couple things for the next 10, 15 years, maybe sooner, I could have those things permanently. Maybe there's something I need to do on a daily basis that allows me to get those things more permanently in my life. But it comes from, again, not so much prioritizing intuition, but leaving it where it belongs, prioritized behind rationality, logic. Not in every case, but in cases like this where goals don't care about your feelings. There's a certain amount of money that's required for small little things. Big things. Obviously, the vacations I take, as JP mentioned, bougie as hell. There's coming a time when I fly in Miami, I'm not trying to get the car that's good on gas mileage. I'm trying to go over to the exotic area. You feel me? I'm like, bruh, bring that one with the top down. Don't bring nothing else. Bring me the one with the top down. You hear me? But of course, I must do the small little things that allows me to do those things. Working through the chaos. A lot of people are kind of assuming, and especially during the New Year's area, where everyone kind of, 2021 gonna be better than 2020 because 2020 was so bad. So far, it's not looking like that. It's not looking like 2021 is gonna, far exceed 2020. It may be the same, or less. We might just be off to a rough start. It might be far worse than we can ever imagine. But it's our job to wake up and say, I'm going to do the small things. I'm going to control what's in my life currently, the task in front of me right now. What do I need to do today to make this 24 hours successful? For me, it was going to the gym. It was making a live stream. It was actually publishing the second channel. I have this thing where I don't like starting over. It's why I try to make my decisions quality, but my goals tell me, bro, you got to do these couple things right here, bro. It's not up to you. It's not up to how you feel. Working through the chaos. The chaos is probably not going to go away. 2020 is probably not, 2021 is probably not going to be far better. It might be the same. Again, we can't control those things. We can't control the future. All we have is 24 hours. What are you going to do with it? That's all there is. You have now. I go back to work Monday. Now what? Do I sulk because I'm back in Alaska? I landed, it was 13 degrees. Do I just cry about it? Oh, it's cold up here and the amenities suck. And no, we get back to work. This is probably one of my favorite ones that she mentioned. Never break your cover, stay consistent. She went on a rant on this for about a good 5 minutes about just how consistency is probably one of the most valuable, aspects of doing anything. I posted on Twitter a while back. Consistency is how anything grows. Muscles, YouTube channels, podcasts, careers, performance at a certain career, relationships, the effort that you provide to someone, that you exchange with someone. Can you be consistent with something small? This is why I force myself to post, provide value. Can I be consistent with what I say I want? And the tasks in between that are required of me. Can I be consistent? She says, no matter what story you're telling, let's say you're being interrogated, you do not break your cover. Obviously, easier said than done. My eating. I will tell myself more than anybody else will be able to tell me. My eating needs to be consistent for me to get the results that I say I want. And matter of fact, let me go ahead and say this too, because how dare I call my mom out or call anybody else out, any of my family or friends? There's two parts of accountability. There are two aspects, two major variables of accountability. There's the acknowledgement, saying the right words as far as it's my fault. This is my responsibility. I have the authority. It's my fault. This is what I should have done. This is what I didn't do. This is what I actually did. And the second part would be the accompanying and the corresponding actions that match the correct words. One thing I'm ashamed of personally is the amount of talk I've done on this channel. Just previous years of just being here, the amount of talk I've done with no results to match. When it comes to my eating, this is why I've stopped posting fitness videos. And again, this happens every single year. How long have I been talking about, getting shredded, losing weight, getting the, abs and all that? I've been talking about it. Again, this is not coming from a angle of, I'm going to do this year in 2021. I'm going to get shredded. It hasn't happened. And it's a result of not having the actions to match the words, because accountability is two parts. Again, you can say the right words and say, I should have did this. I knew I should have did this. I shouldn't have ate that. I need to eat this. But as long as my actions do not match, the accountability equation does not work. Woe is me. Woe to me, those who are real quick to call other people on accountability, the two-part equation. But then I only have one part. Because it's real easy. It's really easy to say the right word, especially when you know better. It's real easy to know the things you should be doing, and you just say the right words. I should have did this. I'm gonna do this. And next time, and in the past, I knew I shouldn't have did that. Nope. Actions as well. That's a full equation of accountability. Anyway, what else we got? So yeah, never break your cover. Stay consistent for years, for days, for weeks, whatever is required of you for a certain length of time. Be consistent. This is okay. So I said the last one was my favorite, but this actually might be my favorite one, mainly because it ties into a lot of Robert Greene's books, especially in regards to seduction. Seduction. She was mentioning in one part of the conversation, somebody asked her a question during the interview, I guess, and a question came up as far as, do women have the same opportunities as men when it comes to positions in the CIA? And of course, she dressed her head on. You'll notice in her interviews that she will make the joke that she's not a feminist, and then she'll mention, how the top 4 positions at the CIA are ran by women. And I noticed that a while back. I was just, curious about the CIA. Just on Wikipedia, just look around. You notice that the top dog, the director, top 4 positions ran by women. That speaks to a cerebral ability. Not based on difference, but based on similarities. I'm not going to go deep into that whole discussion, the political environment and what have you. But you'll notice that there's some positions that men and women are equal in due to what is required up here, not right here. There's differences. Anyway. She mentioned how the use of women is underrated, something Russia never really tapped into, especially during that time, let's say the Cold War, time period, how there were no women, and even, the KGB did not expect women agents to be over there, So there are certain missions. I can't remember the name of it. But there are certain missions where they sent women, and they were highly effective. And of course, my mind immediately went back to Cleopatra, especially the way, Art of Seduction, Robert Greene broke it down so beautifully, where he described how, she seduced Caesar, and smuggled herself in a carpet into his chambers, seduced him, had his son. But just the ability to do so, it tends to fall on certain demographics. It's not limited at all, because men adopted a ton of different ways to seduce. It's why, in a lot of ways, men tend to be the true romantics. These love songs and the roses and the different what we might call chivalry in today's age, or what we used to reference as chivalry. There's levels, and if you look for the patterns, they're there. But yeah, she mentioned how, and it's something Robert Greene mentioned as far as and this is one of my favorite quotes I took from the book: what strength cannot achieve, seduction can. Sometimes you don't need to go through the front door with muscle. Sometimes you can flank. You can flank your enemy with a smile, with the right perfume. And it simply just brings a different value to our differences as humans. Equally valuable, but different, unique. What else we got? Know your opponents, their arena, terrain, which, of course, points to planning. She mentioned how, dead drops. You're trying to communicate with, your double agent or your spy of sorts. Might be in a different arena. And how do you communicate them without walking directly up to them? Obviously, that's not ideal. How do you communicate? Can't call them, phone tap. Can't text them, phones being monitored. Can't walk up to them, can't meet in public. You're being, followed. Well, dead dropping is simply leaving a message somewhere that only the person you're trying to communicate to will recognize the package and the contents thereof. Dead dropping. But she mentioned, and it was so intriguing, the amount of legwork that actually goes into it. She mentioned how if you're going to drop a brick somewhere, let's say a brick that blends right into its environment, you're going to drop a brick somewhere. Well, it takes about 2 months of planning before you can actually execute the planning and execute the dropping of that brick. You have to know the area. It needs to blend in. You can't just be a brick on the sidewalk. The timing needs to be right. Your ability to drop it without being seen dropping something. It just alludes to the amount of planning that should go into something. Of course, in our personal lives, those of us who are not in the CIA, who are not making dead drops, how do we, incorporate this? Planning. That means the time. Again, you start with time. With every goal that you plan on attaining or plan on moving towards, what do you first structure? Your time. The time you go to bed, the time you wake up. Certain things should not change. Even while I'm on leave, even while I'm deployed, even when I come traveling through, different time zones, the time I wake up cannot be sporadic. It may change, obviously time zones, you can't control every variable, but your effort to address certain structures, certain pillars should not be a surprise. Oh, I woke up at 12 today, and I woke up at 7 yesterday, and I woke up at 5, and I slept in till 9. And no, there should be a pattern. Certain things should not just be random. Planning something on the sidewalk, dropping something in a construction area, but you're going to plan 2 months before you do it. Think about that. It's amazing. It's amazing. Planning 2 months in advance for something as simple as dropping something on the sidewalk. That speaks to, obviously, the difficulty of certain arenas. Obviously, if you're in Russia, you're being followed by the KGB, and they're right up on your tail. She spoke to how some moments you only have a 5-second window to execute something. 5-second window. Discipline. What else we got? We only got 2 more. Time. And this ties into the last one. As far as, 3 more. I skipped one. So ties into, knowing the arena, knowing your opposition's, terrain at the same level as they do. This is the war zone. Know the area that you're going to be operating in. Timing, place, managing attention. And of course, the notes that I accompanied with that. The battle of this world is for your mind and for attention. Obviously, being the chief of disguise, something she had to master. Master was when to capture someone's attention and when to avoid someone's attention. If someone's wearing a mask, you want them to blend in. You don't want attention. You don't want them looking at the details, around your eyes and the cutouts around your nostrils and your mouth. You don't want attention. And there's some cases where you need a distraction. You need someone's attention to be redirected. You need misdirection, in a given arena. She spoke to how, magic and, how they operate with sleight of hand and misdirection. You need them to look this way while you do this, and making them believe that they're seeing something when they're really not. Having doubles and having duplicates and you want them to think that I'm really across town when I'm actually right in front of them. Learning to master attention. If you look at social media, the one variable that everyone is trading on, including myself, is attention. Because we're all selling something. Something I had to admit to myself. I'm on YouTube to make money. Simple as that. And by doing so, first of all, it's a simple transaction. Provide value. And I get back what I want automatically. You know, learning how to trade on attention, but realizing that it's exchange of value. I'm not here to just sit in front of you and wait for super chats and wait for people to just no, that's not how that works. You don't go to Walmart and just leave money there. You know, I don't overpay for DoorDash because they're not bringing me food to my doorstep. I'm paying for convenience. That's why it's more expensive. You know, I'm paying for someone to drive across town to drive all the way back across town to put food in front of my door, and all I have to do is just hop out the bed for 5 seconds, hop back in bed. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. You know, the battle of this world is for your mind and for your attention. There's a reason why there are ads everywhere. You might as well accept it. In some cases, like myself, where I pay for YouTube Red, I pay for the more expensive Hulu package, the more expensive Netflix, the more I pay for no ads in my presence. Even on YouTube, I don't want to see ads. Give me my time back. I don't watch DirecTV. I don't watch cable. I don't want to see your commercials. If I want to buy something, I will go to Amazon. Even on Facebook, I found that toggle switch where you can turn off Facebook being able to track you, track the apps you go into so they can give you relevant ads. No, I know what I need in my life. So I will go buy it when I need it. I don't want to be constantly sold to. Just, hey, buy this. Hey, buy this. No. It's why I don't sit here and beg y'all. No. Nope. People will invest where they see value. People will buy. People will spend where they see value. There's nothing wrong with asking. Nothing wrong with, just like I did at the beginning of the video, I posted just the link, and just the notification. I have a new channel. But you won't hear about it again. I'm not going to sit here and just bombard y'all. Hit the like button. Hit the like button. Leave a comment. Ask me a question. No, people will do and invest their time where they see value. 16 people watching. 16 people think that there's value here. It's my job to provide as best I can the value that is perceived to be here. Focus. Realize how, again, if the battle for your mind is, what every marketer, what every brander, whatever, salesman, saleswoman, whatever their goal is to get something in your pocket and get money from you, they need your focus. They have to find a way to cut through all the foolishness, all the different posts on your wall, all the different tweets, all the different YouTube channels, all the different clickbaits, and find a way to get your focus for just a split second, a millisecond. Can I just get them to think about my product? Can I get them to just think about what I have to offer here? That's what every business is out there trying to do. I'm sure at McDonald's, if they could find a way to efficiently and cost effectively bring samples to your doorstep, every business would. If they can just give you a little tiny piece of a sample of a product that they offer, it's why, you go to the mall, which is kind of rare nowadays to have a mall even open. But, you have the salespeople right in the middle that you're trying to get your attention for a split second. I know you're going there, but can I just get your attention real quick just to offer you the sea salt? Just a little sample. This is why focus is imperative. This is why I love this mode on my phone, Galaxy, where you can just turn off every app except for the ones that you deem necessary. Phone calls and text messages, that's about it. But I have the ability to just kind of cut off the rest of the world, all the inputs, and say, I'm going to focus on this right here for an hour, for 2 hours. When I study, I turn off the TV, turn my phone off unless I'm using it to actively study. But by removing distractions, you give your mind the ability to do one thing at a time. I don't believe in the concept of multitasking. I believe that the human mind simply changes focus very quickly. But if you look at the results, how efficient is that? Are you being efficient by switching focus every 2 seconds? How would y'all feel if I was just answering text messages, answering phone calls, and going to the door back and doing push-ups and watching YouTube channels and then flipping through the news? while making a live stream. No, focus on one thing. She mentioned an acronym, MICE, MICE. And it's in regards to why someone would betray their country. Treason, if you will. Why would someone betray their country? M, the number one reason, money. I, ideology. C, compromise. E, ego. It is my ethos, my belief system, that everyone has a price for compromise. Everyone. Some people just have a very high price for loyalty. But I personally believe everyone has a price, and that if it's met at the wrong time, people will do things that they're not expected to do. It's a very dangerous question. What is your price for compromise? A lot of people don't want to acknowledge that they have a price. You always have these questions of, would you do this for this amount of money? And depending on the question, you might not get an answer. You might get a yes or no, hell yes or, hell no. Like, who knows? Depending on, especially when it actually happens in real life, what is your price for compromise? It's a very dangerous question. The answer even more, it's a scary conversation to have when someone brings up what you're willing to compromise. Who are you willing to betray for the right price? It's best that you find that before someone else does. You need to know what your price of compromise or price for compromise is. Ideology. Some people have belief systems that don't actually line up with where they live, what they do on a daily basis, the people they work for, the company that they're part of. A lot of us seem to think that, we are right, and everyone around us that betrays us, I posted on Twitter a while back that I've come to expect betrayal. Not that it's so much, it's wrong in the most general sense. At least, of course, it depends on your worldview, whether or not betrayal is wrong. But, given certain environments, the worldview is chosen for you. In the Air Force, you're here. You don't get to decide whether or not betrayal is, okay. The UCMJ will decide for you. Thou shall not do that fancy stuff over there. I'm not going to go through all four of them. But yeah, just be very careful. Know the potential of the humans around you, whether they're friends, enemies, family. Realize that at their core, they are human, and that they have wants, they have needs. And there's a concept called leverage, where people will do things that they may not normally do because of many different variables. But leverage, currently, especially due to the economy and how, a lot of people are struggling financially. What companies have leverage? What companies? It should come to mind automatically. I'm not going to say it, but there are companies out here that are leveraging the fact that people need what they perceive to be quick cash. And so they're willing to sacrifice certain morals, certain principles to get what they perceive to be easily accessible. Trust me, nothing in this world is free. Nothing in this world is free. Be careful when you look over the fence, you see that free money, you see people in the Air Force and, they got stability and they got money, and people in the military as a whole, they got the check that comes on 1st and 15th. Trust me, it's hella valuable. That's number one things I value in the military right now is paid leave and pretty much a guaranteed check. For the most part, you almost have to work to not get a guaranteed paycheck. But there are certain areas especially just in the financial sector, where a lot of people are suffering under that. I have to compromise. Well, I want to compromise these areas in order to get that money over there. Be careful. Be careful. Some companies, some people are waiting for you to be in that position where you need to compromise. I posted on Twitter a while back. Again, follow me on Twitter if you want to hear my thoughts, as they come and go, throughout the day. But in order to get something that you want from someone, find out what they need. If you want something from someone, don't ask them directly. Go get leverage. Find out what they need. They won't have a choice. If I know you need to eat, and I want someone over here to hang this picture, I'm gonna hire you. I can pay you whatever I want. As long as you're starving, as long as you're gasping for air, and I know you need these certain things, and I have them, easily accessible, easily, readily available, I can hold that leverage over you. That's just how the world works. Every company does this. It's not like like an evil concept to leverage something over someone's head. Colleges do this. You look at the sports, oh, you want to go to the NBA? Well, we'll get you some airtime, put you on TV. And nowadays, Instagram tends to be removing the middleman. YouTube, you can get in front of millions of people. You don't have to go the college basketball route or college football route. Look at LaMelo Ball. You may not be a fan of his father. I'm really not. But I have to be honest with myself and acknowledge the fact that his father is a genius marketer. He knows how to manage attention. He knows how to say the right thing. And it could be just wrong, flat out wrong. But he knows how to manage attention. Think about that. 2 out of 3 sons, top 5 pick NBA. When is the last time that happened? It hasn't. It hasn't happened. So he's doing something right, at least in relation to his goal. But again, you see across the world where you have companies that they speak of, like Apple, having sweatshops, and Nike. I'm sure our shoes being made. God knows what's going on in other countries that we just have no awareness of. But even me, I show up to work to a job I don't like to get the resources and to get the amenities that I'm exchanging my time for. I used to do it at McDonald's. I used to do it at Walmart. I'm living in Alaska to get what the Air Force has and exchanging value. Time for resources, time for money. That's a form of leverage. Colleges, they're handing out debt to people. unless you go to the Ivy League, Harvard, Cornell, Princeton, Yale, Stanford, you better know why you're there. You better have a 4.0. You better be involved in the extracurriculars, volunteering, the private organizations, Greek, what have you. But again, these colleges are leveraging the fact that I'm going to give you a chance to go and exchange a degree for a job. But guaranteed, unless you pay cash, unless you pay up front for your education, hold this debt for us. And trust me, they are getting richer by the day. Interest. The fact that, hedge fund managers are managing these portfolios. I believe Ray Dalio manages Yale's endowment. These are billion-dollar industries that have leverage on the populace. It's not a foreign concept. So just realize that these transactions are going on nonstop. And that you can either be and take a major role in it, and basically in the sense that you want more control of the process of exchanging, meaning making quality decisions that give you more control of the exchange, or you can just be a victim. Not in the sense that you are a victim, but that you enter negotiations knowing you have no leverage. It's a bad situation. And the last one, keeping your options open. You always need a plan B. She made reference to situations where she's meeting up with different informants and different personnel around the CIA or those who are working for the U.S. government. And she mentioned how no matter what you're doing, especially when you're in foreign lands, you're in the opponent's terrain, you need a plan B always. The best plan A could still have a single point of failure, especially when you're dealing with humans. Because that compromise element, she talks about all the traitors that have betrayed the CIA and betrayed the U.S. government, from FBI to, the Marines. She mentioned another story where this guy got seduced by, a foreign agent, gave up information. He did his time, to the CIA, where people can be turned based on, many different variables. But you need a plan B. Now, I'm not a huge fan of plan Bs in the sense that they tend to take away from plan As. A lot of people put more planning into their plan Bs than they do the plan As. Hence why they need a plan B, because their plan A is not well founded. It's based on emotion. It's based on a lack of planning. It's based on what you feel. Think about it. Your plan A should be just as thorough as your plan B, and vice versa. Your plan B should reflect just as much effort as your plan A. They should be just about equal, meaning it's just simply a different route. It's a detour. You look on Google Maps or Apple Maps, whatever, and they'll show you two different routes with similar ETAs. Very similar. The time you get there will be almost exactly the same. That's what your plan A and plan B should be. That's how it's reflected in my life. YouTube is a plan B. Podcasting is a plan B. The Air Force is my plan A. My plan C, I have a free education. I can leverage that. A free education, no debt attached to it. If I fall asleep in the Air Force, I've made staff sergeant. I can pretty much coach for this 15 years and retire staff sergeant. Do that senior year. So plan B, plan Delta, coast in the Air Force for the next 16 years, retire. Guaranteed paycheck. What's my plan A? A lot of people ask, my plans for the Air Force, my plan for, my personal life or on YouTube is to grow my YouTube channel at the same time as growing my Air Force career and to reap the harvest of them at the similar time period down the road. Build a network via YouTube where most people that join the Air Force will know my name. It's almost impossible to not come across one of my videos, to where I provide value, and in return, I get to network with people. I get to meet people all around the Air Force, different career fields, different countries. I've met so many people from different countries that it's amazing. That's my plan A. Plan B, YouTube may not work. YouTube may stop growing. My second channel may never grow. I might just be limited. I'm already getting paid by YouTube, but it may never reach a point where I can live off it completely. That's a variable I'm definitely measuring, is how quickly can I get to a living wage off of YouTube. And again, there's the element of trust. Do I trust my entire livelihood, my entire income to YouTube, to Google? Another tweet I posted, your income should be as diversified as your investments. You should not be limited to one stream of income and one stream of investments. It should be diversified. Just a thought. You always want a plan B, backup plan. Not so much that it's operating out of fear, but that you realize the reality of this world we live in, and that sometimes certain things just don't work. That's why the parachute was invented. In most cases, a parachute is required, but now we have a backup parachute because life happens, things go wrong. Shout out to my boy Seymour. I haven't seen my boy in years. That's the video. While we're here, might as well do a little Q&A. I saw some unrest in the comments concerning whether or not this was a live Q&A. Shout out to everybody that's in the chat, everybody that joined in. It's good. Ravenous Wolf, Navy in the house. You see him. E5 here. I'll show you some love. Just found him on YouTube channel a few weeks ago and binge watched all your videos. Really great content. Appreciate you. Much love. What else we got? Anthony Morales asks, when it comes to MEPS, what can I expect going the Air Force route? Well, again, once you realize the purpose of MEPS, you realize the function of MEPS. They're there to disqualify you from either jobs or the entire military as a whole, or at least that branch that you're applying for. They're there to scrub your background. It's a physical, it's kind of a play on words. It's a physical background check. They're checking your body, your criminal history, your health history, your financial history. They're checking you as a person, and they're trying to evaluate, does this person have the bare requirements, the bare minimum requirements to enter the military? If you do, you'll swear in. If there's a couple of issues, a couple of red flags, they'll be addressed. You may have to come back. You may be permanently disqualified, maybe temporarily disqualified. Who knows? There's many different variables. But look on my community tab, where I posted fellow recruits. Her video. She's an actual YouTuber as well. Very successful YouTuber, mind you. I've been following her for a minute, but she reached out. Well, we met through YouTube, of course. But she's been in the recruiting process for 4 years. And this was after she was permanently disqualified, but she kept trying. And now she has a BMT date with the job that she wanted. So, of course, MEPS can be a very stressful, hurdle to overcome. But many people have, met a ton of no's and still got in. So it really just comes down to effort sometimes. It comes down to luck of the draw, favor. There's many different variables that can determine whether or not you are able to join or not. So don't be discouraged if you get a no either. I mean, sometimes the no is the best thing that can ever happen to you. Sometimes a yes can be the best thing. Perspective is what matters. Almighty Moreland says, CIA was my dream job at one point. Part of the reason I chose intelligence as my FSC. Interesting. I got a friend who's currently financed. He's interested in going into intelligence. Fun fact, I actually turned down operational intelligence in the debt program. I'm not sure if that was a good or bad decision, but I made it. Never know the alternative. What else we got? Here's a question. How does one lead without being controlled or having guidelines? I'm not sure that question makes sense. How does one lead without being controlled or having guidelines? Yeah, you might have to rephrase that. Yeah, starting over, remain humble. Starting over is definitely something no one wants to do. It's humbling. Not a reference to your username, but definitely. No one likes to start over. We all like to just move forward and improve and grow. But sometimes it's required. For me, it's a requirement. Starting a second channel, you're not going to start at your current numbers. You're going to start from zero. And so, again, consistency is what we point to. Ravenous Wolf, right on time with it. Consistency works, especially in the gym. Facts. Going to the gym sometimes is just hard enough for some people. Like, at least for me, going to the gym is the easiest part. But it's what happens the rest of the day. You go to the gym, 1-2 hours. Well, you still got 22 hours left to execute on the thought process or the requirements, the discipline. I won't be making any comments concerning the presidential goings on. Shout out to you, Ashton. Yeah, I won't be addressing that. Yeah, I'm not gonna be dealing with any of that. Yeah. So for those who are wondering, I'm still in the Air Force. I've only been in 4 years, a little over 4 years. Still got 2 years left until the end of my contract, and we'll see how that goes in regards to extending or reenlisting, cross training. That's on my plate currently. What's better, Air Force, Air National Guard, or Air Reserves? Personally, of course, my goal is to choose the option that gives me the most options. So when you enter Reserves and National Guard, you're pretty much there, with some exceptions where you're able to go on active duty orders, or get an AGR slot, which is basically your guard, but you're active duty in terms of the amount of time you work per day. Whereas active duty is the easiest to transfer to the other ones. So personally, I chose active duty because I knew going guard or going reserve is a lot easier coming from active duty. But if I wanted to go the opposite direction, it would be a little bit more red tape. And so, yeah, I always choose the option that has the most options. I'm obsessed with having options available to me. With every mistake you make, you lose options. With every sub quality decision you make, you lose options. And so you always want to pursue the option that gives you the most options. So that helps. Reverend Wolf says, I stopped posting on Instagram because I lost muscle. It's a sad reality. I feel that most people took a fitness loss in 2020. I would be inclined to agree. The quarantine 20 is relevant in this case. Definitely. Yeah, fitness has been, something to deal with as far as, you're sitting at home all day and gyms are being closed or sporadically open. Who wants to go run outside and do push-ups in the living room? I don't know what the obsession is with Peloton, but yeah, who wants to ride a bike? No. No. Yeah, I'm gonna skip over that comment as well. What a Hamiltonian operator says, man, are you out? Or do you really have a good ISP? Thanks for sharing your mind. I'm not sure what ISP is, but I'm not out. Yeah, I'm still in the Air Force. What's good, Toya G? Ravenous Wolf says, planning is a huge life hack. I just got a journal and started planning everything. It helps make my time more important and more meaningful. Let me say something about that real quick. Planning is valuable when there's a set time period for planning. Planning is not a long-term strategy in the sense that you plan for years and you plan for, planning needs to be in relation to a start date of execution. They work great together as far as you can plan and then do like right after, like within a span of minutes. But those who enter a phase of just constantly planning, constantly pen to paper, constantly brainstorming, and you never actually try something, you never do something, that's where you run into issues where indecisiveness is probably worse than not doing anything at all. So I'll make sure you realize that whenever you enter a phase of planning, that you realize, all right, right after I get done planning, I need to set a date, a time period where I'm actually going to do and try. Most people, enter that phase around, New Year's, and I'm gonna start January 1st. I'm gonna start this new thing. Cool. Actually do it though. I've had too many conversations where people talk about, I want to start a YouTube channel just like you, or you inspired me to start my YouTube channel, and then all they have is a YouTube channel. Or they're researching cameras for weeks or months. I'm like, it's not that deep. It's not that deep. One thing I've realized personally, when in regards to YouTube or just in starting new projects, is that doing. Gary Vee talks about this constantly as far as just trying. I'm not saying go make mistakes immediately. I'm not saying break your back, messing up stuff and just kind of guessing. But especially in the day and age where all this information is available, sometimes just doing, learning as you go, and trying. Trying in most cases will be more valuable. Obviously, you want to aim towards the anti-fragile experiences where, if you do fail, it's a beneficial type, situation where you benefit from failing versus, I'm going to jump off this cliff and see if I can fly. You don't get to come back from that. Some mistakes are immediately fatal, and you don't get a do-over. So make sure you keep that difference. If you don't know what anti-fragile means, search this channel with my name, anti-fragile, and some videos should pop up concerning that. The difference between experience and book learning is that some mistakes are immediately fatal. So you want to be careful of that. What else we got? Narashu, you are correct. I don't do anything. I'm not gonna lie. I do touch on politics, but not in when it comes to direct questions concerning current events. Yeah, I'm not. Nope. And it doesn't have to be a question concerning self-improvement or Air Force related. I enjoy talking about many different things. When I'm not on here talking live or when I'm not, at work, I am studying everything. And you probably won't be able to guess that until you ask me a question out of left field. But I enjoy being knowledgeable on most topics. If I enter a conversation about golf, I want to be able to be relevant in that conversation. If you talk to me about physics, I can come off the dome with knowledge. And then the cases where it comes to wisdom, application of knowledge, that's where I kind of limit it to certain areas that I've actually done something. But when it comes to theoretical, wisdom, no. This channel has been about documenting, about my journey being documented in the form of video, where I tell you about my failures and my successes. So very rarely will you ever get theoretical wisdom. You will get either my successes or my failures. But my knowledge tends to be, pretty wide. So yeah, I'm always down for a random question because I enjoy learning. Touched on a couple of these questions. Facts. So Hamiltonian operator mentions how it's very easy to slip in terms of discipline when it comes to this pandemic. A lot of people have just kind of turned off their ambition, turned off their planning, their goals, because there are these other variables that they can't control. That's the wrong decision. It's the wrong decision. You're in the midst of a storm, you're in a rowboat, you keep rowing. The waves are there, but you keep rowing, you keep trying. That's been my whole focus, is despite the foolishness, whether it be political or natural, it is my tunnel vision that tells me this is the direction I'm going. This is the life I want to live. This is the things I want to attain. This is the direction I need to go in. These tasks are required of me on a daily basis. Providing value, doing these small little things that fund these other things, keeping my options open, avoiding major mistakes. It's not easy, not perfect, but effort, trying. That's really the whole point. What else we got? Big Shane Gillis says, the country and world is steadily becoming tailored to reward mediocrity and groupthink. I agree in part. Especially in the sense that the world, this universe, in a spiritual sense, rewards you for what and who you are right now. There's a good chance, and I posted this on Twitter, there's a good chance that you currently have what you deserve. You're living the life that you currently deserve. What you have currently, who you are currently, is a product of your actions, your decisions. There are some variables that are outside of your control. Can't control that. A lot of us grew up with, very spotty, upbringings. Can't control everything. Can't control your parents, But there are a lot of things that we have control of and that we like to dismiss and say it's someone else's fault and woe is me. And, if this was right and if the world was perfect, my life wouldn't be so bad. Well, groupthink is definitely a epidemic where, you know, the crowd is going that way. We'll all just go that way. Never think to stop and question, why am I doing this? Does this make sense? Should I be doing this? Is this the right direction? Is this the right decision? Some people just never stop to question something that they've always believed, something they grew up believing. It's a problem. But again, there's always some major roadblocks that will help you along the road. One of them being pain. Pain tends to teach us, when something's out of order. And regret is probably the worst form of pain, meaning you don't have time, you don't have the opportunity to correct it. You just have regret. Old age and regret pair perfectly together, meaning that you reach a certain age and then you experience regret. You realize, I wish I would have tried this. I wish I would have done that. And you realize I don't have the opportunity to fix it. How many 80-year-old D1 athletes do you see? People that wish they would have played, or tried that one sport or whatever. Keeping those things in context. Narashu asks, what do you consider as betrayal to you? Betrayal is quite simple in the sense that if someone says something and does the opposite in regards to me in my life and in my environment, that could be considered a betrayal. Whenever your words don't match, or whenever your actions don't match your words, in regards to me, in relation to me, because again, if you mess your own life, that's your fault. That's your decision. That's your choice. But if something is involving me, you say one thing, you do another, it negatively impacts me, it can be seen as betrayal. Again, I've come to expect it in most cases. I don't expect anyone to stay the same. I don't expect anyone to remain loyal in the sense that they would never, make a decision that doesn't benefit me, because I study human nature. I study history. I study current events. I look for evidence in this world I live in to say, oh wait, this is what normally occurs over time. And there will always be evidence of a certain ideology, a certain way of being that, loyalty does not seem to be prioritized. Loyalty does not seem to be incentivized. So yeah, there's always that. Ravenous Wolf asks, do you feel that you can only have friends that you benefit from? And if so, is that using someone? I've had friends that I've cut off because I realized that I was no longer benefiting from that friend. This comes up more often than not, and you seem to put it perfectly in words. So any relationship, whether or not you realize it or acknowledge it or are conscious of it, any relationship that you're in, whether it be friends or intimate or family or coworkers, there is an exchange of value taking place. My boy Mike, I have so many friends named Mike, like close friends named Mike. It's crazy. But there's a reason why I enjoy their company or I have them as a friend. And for most of them, it's a different reason. There's one Mike that me and him just played music together. We played basketball together. And that's all we did. We played 2K. We drunk. He made me these dope mixed drinks. Shout out Mike. Gilliard, he know he is. And then there's my other Mike, the one I just visited in Florida. And he exposed me to so many different environments and lifestyles and ideas and ways of investing. And, his lifestyle is so much different than the way I grew up. He comes from money and he has money. And he helps me with areas that I don't have any experience in, nor could I, due to my upbringing and the way I grew up and my experience, my background. He has a different way of doing things. But again, we connect on different levels. We met in high school. So I met him when he was young. I met him, in an environment that was not luxury, like it was Watertown, New York. But again, we connect on levels that it's different. And then I have my other boy, Mike, that I met in Watertown, New York as well. And we met at church. And he plays drums and I play piano, but now he plays guitar too. And he plays organ, he plays piano, and we met with music in common. But we also grew up together at the same time. He went to the Army after high school. I went to Tennessee first, and then I joined the Air Force. We have we're like brothers, honestly. And out of all my friends that are named Mike, me and him, like he's my brother. There's different levels when it comes to friends, but once you realize that the reason why people are friends, it's definitely exchange there that they all make me laugh in one way or another. I enjoy their company, their companionship, their accountability, telling me when I'm wrong. How many times have they given me help? I can count on all my limbs how many times they have gone out of their way to show me love, and vice versa. If they ask me today, right now, yo, I need help with this, I would not hesitate because there's a ground laid, there's a foundation laid. In that foundation, you will see exchange of value that does not always come up, in terms of money or exchange of tangible items, but laughter. Someone who makes you laugh, that's exchange of value. Typically, we pay comics for that. But what if you can get that for free through friendship? When it comes to intimate relationships, it's problem solving. When I get married, or if I get married, if I get in a relationship with, the woman of my dreams, there's an exchange of value. Typically, I pursue women that solve a problem for me that I can't solve for myself. That's the only reason why I date. The only reason why I get in a relationship is because she will solve a problem that I cannot solve for myself. That's everywhere. When I go to work, there's exchange of value between me and the Air Force, between me and my leadership. That they expect certain things from me, I expect certain things from them. Exchange of value. So whenever you find yourself in a situation where you're not providing value, you're wrong. Now, you may be doing it in a different area. It's up to you to acknowledge that and to discover that and to research your friendships. Research why you get along with someone and realize you're in their life for a reason. They keep you in their life for a reason. People are in your life for a reason. I don't understand the concept personally of cutting people off. I've done it before, but I've had to reflect on that and realize wrong decision. Never burn a bridge. Never burn a bridge, because it's so difficult to rebuild a bridge, especially during times of war, in times of need, in times of turbulence. You don't build a boat during a hurricane. It needs to be there. And a lot of us will cut people off and burn bridges because you don't need them right now. But you have no foresight. Not saying that you'll need that individual, but it's a thought process that comes from humility. Realizing that everyone around you, even including the people that you do not like, people you do not enjoy, they have something that they can offer you that can help you, later down the road. That you may not have a need currently, but again, keeping your eyes down the road, realizing every human is valuable in one way or another. We all solve different problems in society, and by realizing that, you have a network, which is the whole point of humans. Problem solving. Your mother solves a problem that no other person in this world can solve. And when she's gone, she's gone. Realize the value of that position. Your brother and sister, your father. Fathers tend to be overlooked in today's society. But realize the value of what my father taught me. The example he set. The fact that I have a father in my life. Someone I can pick up a phone and call him right now. That's invaluable. Some people don't even know who the father is. Realize the value of positions that are being played in your life, the network that is around you, whether or not you acknowledge it or not, they're there. Just a thought. Trey West asks, does changing presidents have an effect on the military? Not on a micro level, but definitely on a macro level. The direction of the military is determined by leadership. But on your day-to-day level, it may not even be adjusted even a little. There's some things like the budget might be adjusted as far as you making more or less money. The wars that may or may not be started or generated or ongoing due to who's in charge. Many different variables at play that could be controlled by who's in the leadership position, such as the commander in chief. But it's not something you should worry about in a micro level in terms of you wake up and you're worried about who's president, you're worried about his policies. It's something you should be informed by, but unemotional about, because first of all, you can't control it. At our level, especially on the listed level, we're at the bottom of the totem pole. And then as you climb, you got officers, then mixed in civilians, and then actual permanent, elected or what have you, civilians, and then you have at the top another civilian. So there's many things you can't control, but again, at the micro level, you know, you may see the hand of the commander in chief, mingling in your affairs, but it's not something you will notice constantly. Good question. Good question. Let me answer a couple more. JP says, have you ever tried taking a jujitsu class? No, I haven't. Believe it or not, it's on the bucket list. It's on the bucket list. I skipped a couple questions. Seymour says, are you still doing music? Not really. Whenever I see a piano, I'm definitely there. But not as much as I used to. I miss it, but not as much. My priorities kind of shifted a little bit. But of course, I have a keyboard at the crib. I keep a MIDI board on me. But yeah, it's been a minute since I really kind of dived into a jam session. I had one when I went to San Antonio with my boy. He was down there making noise, but that's about it. It's good to hear from you, though. Jeff Mulebar, I probably said that incorrectly. I apologize. Says, I'm tired of flying. What's an easy job to knock out the rest of my career? I don't think there would be one. Especially coming from a flying AFC, you're going to have your hands full just trying to leave that career field. But obviously, a desk job offers you more stability, being able to have predictable hours in most cases, not being an essential worker, mission essential. You're sitting at a desk for the most part, and your hours are predictable more or less, office hours, what have you. So pretty much anything sitting at a desk, ranging from personnel to admin to finance to most medical jobs, where you have a set schedule, really just depends on what you have available to you, and then of course your interests and many different variables that go into a decision like that. But a desk job in most cases would probably fit what you're referring to. What else we got? Seymour Hilton Houghton Seymour says, what books do you recommend? What are your top reads? Anything by Robert Greene. I have yet to. Matter of fact, let me open Audible real quick. Just give y'all a little taste of what I'm messing with as of late. But yeah, anything by Robert Greene is on top of my list. I have all, if not all of his books. I really just love the way he breaks down humanity and our tendencies and of course our abilities that are available to us, but our tendencies, what we actually do. When we have an option, when we have a choice, what do we actually do? The last book I bought, which again, I have so many books that I have not started. But last book I was reading in Texas was Elements of Style. Just kind of speaks to, if you were to become a lawyer without going to law school, this is what you would probably learn. I got this from Tim Ferriss' show. So yeah, Elements of Style by William Strunk Jr. I have 12 Rules for Life, Jordan Peterson. I'm skipping a lot of books too because I want to give y'all a direct insight into my mind. So I'm gonna skip a couple books. Algorithms to Live by Brian Christian and Tom Griffiths. I'm gonna skip that book. No More Mr. Nice Guy, something I probably read every year. Just a constant reminder, probably twice a year, of just the way a masculine man moves in a certain environment. There's a lot of misconceptions about what masculinity is and how a man should move. I don't take my information from the population, as far as, oh, this is what you should be doing. This is what you need to. No. I research and I look at nature and I mix experience with wisdom, with knowledge. There's many different variables where I pull my information from, but this is one of the most impactful books I've ever read in regards to how a man should operate. What is a man? What is masculinity? No More Mr. Nice Guy. I recommend that book to any young man, any teenage man. What else we got? I have Top 5 Regrets by Bronnie Ware. 8 hours left on that book. Orthodoxy, G.K. Chesterton. Amazing writer. My Secret. What was that? Skip that one. What else we got? The Truth About Men, Devon Franklin. Haven't started that one yet. Our Seduction again, Robert Greene. Finished that multiple times. What else we got? Some of these books I don't even recognize because I haven't I haven't scrolled down this low. Skip that one. Skip that one. Evolution of Desire, David Buss. Interesting book. One of my favorite books, Why Women Have Sex, Cindy M. Meston and David M. Buss. Very intriguing book. Because it's one thing to actually be successful, but it's another reason to know why you're successful, especially in regards to women. You know, the dance is amazing, the fun and the interaction, the dance. But to know why and to have a large pool of information to pull from, especially someone who's researched it. It's very interesting perspective that the book provides. 4 Hour Work Week, Tim Ferriss. If you guys don't know who Tim Ferriss is, you're asleep. Look up his podcast, Tim Ferriss Show. You will come across more, amazing persons from that podcast alone. He just interviews major players in the world where he just dissects their thought process and their routines and how they move around their life. And he himself is an amazing person as well. Just things he's accomplished. 50th Law, Robert Greene, 50%. 30 Strategies of War, Robert Greene. The Rational Male, Rollo Tomassi. Speaks for itself. If you don't know, if you haven't read that book, go ahead and grab that. That's in the same vein as No More Mission Nice Guy. What else we got? I'm gonna skip those books. Skip that book. What is this? Ooh, yeah. Carl Jung, Modern Man in Search of a Soul. I haven't started that one yet. But Carl Jung, Jordan Peterson constantly talks about him and his mind and his research as I believe he was a psychiatrist or psychologist, one of those. What else we got? 100 Quotes by Carl Jung. Finished that one a while back. Dating Essentials for Men, The Art of War, Principles, Ray Dalio, Can't Hurt Me, David Goggins. It goes on. I have books for days. I definitely enjoy reading and just learning about this world we live in. It's highly dangerous to be ignorant in this world that we live in. Very dangerous. You're either a victim or the predator. Which one? And not in the sense that you're hurting other people, but in the sense that you're on offense. Being a predator means that you're going after what you need and what you want. Whereas the victim just waits for things to happen to them. And to complain about whatever happens. Woe is me. No. Get out and do. What else we got? Good question. Cross-trained to what? Loadmaster, in-flight refueler, flight attendant, top 3 jobs I'm looking at in terms of cross-training from the Air Force, or in the Air Force, rather. Mute asks, would you consider being a mechanic to be a good first MOS to take before considering cross-training and something else, if at all? Again, this question requires, the assumption is that we value the same things, and we probably don't. I personally don't want to be doing anything that requires me to turn a wrench. That's just not what I like to do. I'll probably be good at it, but that's just not what I'm inclined to choose. So it's not a question I'm able to answer in terms of what I personally consider it. No. But I will probably choose that job over other jobs. So it really just depends whether or not you like working with your hands, whether you don't mind getting your hands dirty, whether or not you don't mind working in the garage, whether or not it's air conditioned or not. You mentioned MOS, which is an acronym for the Army. I'm Air Force. We do have vehicle maintainers, both aircraft and ground vehicles. Neither one is something I'm eager to embark on. So yeah, that's my take on it. What else we got? What else we got? If you want your question definitely answered, go ahead and throw it in a super chat. Otherwise, I'm just going to pick a couple more and then we'll call it a night. Call it a night. Billy Bombay asks, is it good to practice humility, or do you think there's a line you should draw? Humility complements all the other valuable characteristics and traits of a quality human being. That being the most subjective statement I've ever made. It's like, how do you measure a quality human being? Humility is valuable in most cases. Humility is valuable in most cases. What you're probably alluding to is people that get ran over, people that you just kind of get, they're a victim of society in the sense that everything happens to them and they refuse to try to control what they can control. That's the issue that a lot of people deal with, is that they think that being humble is being a pushover, being, having no control of your life, having no control of your willingness to say yes or no, and that's the issue there, is that defining words is imperative. We must learn to define words again, because as long as we're changing definitions and saying, oh, well, that word doesn't mean anything, so I'm just going to throw it in any sense I want, it may fit, the context of the sentence may not change, but did you get a message across that's clear and concise is the issue there. Humility, meaning that in a given case, you're pausing at the fact that you could be wrong, situation you could be wrong, the choice to not try. Robert Greene alludes to this a lot, where he says, don't try to outshine the master. It's a direct example of humility, meaning that in certain cases where you have a choice to be prideful or humble, you choose to be humble. Some cases people don't have a choice of anything, and they think that they're being humble when they're just low on the totem pole. You don't choose to be humble when you're enlisted versus an officer. It's a choice that especially when you have leverage. The concept of leverage, meaning that you have something that someone else needs. That's a great opportunity to be humble, meaning you can leverage humility. It's a deep thought process, but humility is a choice at the end of the day. And that it's something that you should always attempt to leverage, meaning that people will see the opportunity, especially when you have leverage on someone and you choose not to hold that over their heads. People will see that, at least anyone of any foresight, or, people that have wisdom, discernment, they will notice that you chose to take, the high road, in terms of being humble in a given moment when you had leverage on someone. So that's my thought. It was a good D-Trick. I remember you. So this is definitely interesting. So I met my guy. We was at LA Fitness. I was on the bench press trying to put some work in. You hear me? And old boy approached, and we talked a little bit. But the first person I ever met in that region of the country, as far as being recognized from YouTube, dude definitely has a great future ahead of him. He has options, and so congrats to him in advance. But yeah, starting the process going to OTS. That's what's up. It's a very small Air Force, so I mean, we'll definitely probably run into each other again, depending on how long I stay in, how long you stay in, and the different logistics in the background that tend to play out. But I hope I was able to provide some value in some way that makes that process, just a little bit more, efficient, smooth, effective, what have you. But definitely keep in contact. Hit me up with IG, whatever. We stay in contact, man. Let me know if you need anything. It was good, Miss Finley. I see you. Giselle Gardia, what are you referencing? I'm curious. You should put some daily living, to be honest. Just interested, even if you think it's boring. Are you referring to vlogs? Please reiterate what you mean. What else we got? Evan B asks, have you ever interacted with a SEER specialist? If so, what's your thoughts on the career field? I spoke to a gentleman in the SEER specialty at a job fair, and he proceeded to explain the job and what have you. He had a whole table full of the knickknacks of what they utilize on a daily basis, or sporadically throughout training or what have you. Interesting. I might be interested. I'm not sure exactly, mainly because it's outdoors. I'm not inclined to be quick to deal with outdoors. I live in Alaska right now, and the last thing I want to do is go out and deal with nature. But I love traveling, so there's that difference between my willingness to go outside and do stuff and versus sitting in nature and doing stuff. I want to be in civilization outside, moving around, not on a gate. So the security forces is out. Although it's still kind of on my radar because I think there's a chance that I might enjoy security forces. I don't know. I don't know. But SEER, itself, um, it's something I keep that back in my head, but it's not something I'm addressing consciously on a daily basis. So I don't know. It's interesting. Survival, definitely necessary, but I don't plan on living anywhere where I would need to survive so much. But if 2021 keeps playing out the way it is, we may need those type of skills anyway. So there's that. This is an interesting question. Any thoughts on the human race affecting climate change, or do you think that climate is going to do what climates do? This is where this is where a simple analogy kind of answers it for me. Um, if you think about how humans address air conditioning and how, first of all, it costs money, but if you think about the technology that is required to keep a room a certain temperature, to keep our devices such as laptops or tablets or phones from overheating, keeping our cars from overheating, using air and fluid coolant systems. It takes work to control these small environments relative to entire planets. If you think about our history with cooling planets before now, we have no history of cooling planets. We have no control of that. Now, there's the variable of, let's say, our CO2 emissions are controlling the universe, and we are heating up this planet. I have no arguments there. Here's the issue I have, is that those who are pioneering the movement to cool down the planet, what do the actions say? That's pretty much where I leave it at. It's kind of like the analogy of people who say that the world is overpopulated, but they won't sacrifice their own life towards the greater good. Why bring it up then? If you say, all right, well, this state is overpopulated, or this planet or this continent is overpopulated, all right, you leave first then. If all these cars that we're driving, if all these vehicles that we utilize, the public transportation is and these factories and this technology that we're using and these natural resources that we're consuming, if all these things are heating up the environment and you are opposed to that, you go first. You walk to school, you walk to work. You don't use any technology that consumes natural resources. You go vegan. You don't eat anything that was formerly alive, such as plants or animals. That's my only thing, is that people are saying one thing but they're doing something else. That's none of my business. I keep my business to myself. I don't have a personal agenda to try to control a planet. We have no history of benefiting from attempting to control a planet. We can barely get to the moon. We can barely function in space. We still struggle with keeping our cars a certain temperature, keeping the rooms a certain temperature. Yeah, people are cold, people are warm, people are too hot, people can't sleep. We just got heating blankets. We're kind of behind if we're trying to control a planet. So but there's a lot in between there. I feel like there are ways that we can improve the way we impact our environments, our waste, our emissions. You see Tesla making some major moves. There are plenty of ways that we can improve, in terms of efficiency, in terms of the end result being more, careful. But again, as long as people are just kind of talking and not actually doing, for what? For what? That's my take. And I was probably too forthcoming with a question such as, or a question of that political nature. But yeah, sorry, said. What else we got? So yeah, Gardia was referencing just like an everyday type vlog thing or blog thing. I probably will post more of those type of things. I like to edit my vlogs very thoroughly. But there comes a time where quality can take up too much time, and sometimes quantity is just what's necessary. So I might make a adjustment there where I kind of focus on quantity a little bit or incorporate less quality to where that I'm able to pump out my vlogs a little more efficiently because I have a year's worth of vlogs that I'm backed up on. So that's what happens when you're a single creator. You do your own editing. So there's that. And last two. Evan B asks, how does one go from enlisted to officer? Is this through ranking up, or do you have to have certain certifications or complete college classes? I'm going to answer two questions in relation to this question. I had a thought. What if there were a way to create more round? What if there were a way to form more well-rounded officers that were once enlisted? How would I adjust the chain of command to reflect that? I would put the officer pipeline, if you will, on top of or at the end of the enlistment pipeline, meaning everyone would start off as an E1. And as you progress, you go from E1 to E9, obviously throughout that process that is set in place. And then from E9, if you continue to progress in the military, or as time progresses, or as the promotion logistics allow, you go from E9 to O1. And from there, you just start the different pipeline, meaning that you've already gone through all the different processes as enlisted, and now you begin your leadership tenure as an officer, meaning that everyone is enlisted, and then you just kind of continue the progress up into the upper ranks, but you have the experience of both sides of enlisted. Now, some people do have the experience of being prior enlisted. You'll see it in their pay record as O1E, prior enlisted, basically. Well, of course, you get paid more and what have you, but that experience of being both a follower and a leader are invaluable. They pair perfectly together. You need both of them, to make a quality decision. You need to understand both perspectives and the overall impact of a given decision, meaning that how is this going to affect enlisted? How is it going to affect the officers? How is it going to affect the overall mission, the end results of one's decisions in a given moment? To have both insights is quality. So this is my thought. But in regards to your question, there are a couple of ways that you can go. Obviously, you can come in officer if you have the proper degree that is the Air Force values. ROTC is a college pipeline of sorts, where it's kind of like you're just being prepped while you're in college to become an officer, but at least your schooling may or may not be paid for by the military, and then you have a commitment after you graduate. You have the academies. Go to Air Force Academy, which is just Air Force College. Same thing. And then, of course, after you graduate, you have a commitment at the end of that, schooling. So a couple of ways. OTS is officer training school. You go there once you're already in the military. Usually you're enlisted. You are enlisted. So from enlisted side, you just transfer through that officer training school to the officer side. And then, of course, there's scholarships and there's different programs in between that allow for that process to take place. But those are the typical ways that you could transfer from enlisted to officer, or from civilian to officer. Hope that helps. And lastly, we have Miss Gardia. It took 2 years of NR ROTC in high school. How would that help me in rank in the Air Force? What else we got? Let me see what your last question was. You're 16, Miss Gardia? Interesting. Yeah, you're way ahead of the game. Yeah, so my advice to you, being 16 years old, and I'll end with this, is to keep your priorities kind of in front of you. There's nothing wrong with thinking far ahead, but make sure you take care of what's in front of you first. You're in high school, cool. Make sure you're maximizing your moment now. Make sure you're maximizing what you're doing currently. You may be dealing with a virtual schooling situation. Make sure you're doing your best with that. After you've progressed from that to graduating, make sure you keep your priorities in place as far as the path you're going from high school to, let's say, basic training, or going the officer route, or going to a college pipeline that will lead furthermore into the military. Keep your priorities straight, meaning don't look too far ahead that you miss the opportunity in front of you, because it's very easy to look, oh, what job should I have as an officer in the Air Force when you're still in high school? You should be worrying about, are you maximizing where you're at currently? It's one of my regrets from high school is that I did not maximize where I was and my grades. Like I never studied. I never studied. I did not learn how to study until I was in tech school, meaning I failed my first AFSC in Air Force Tech School because I did not know how to study. And only after being reclassed and put into my new AFSC that I actually took the time to learn how I retained information and how to study effectively, that I learned how to study. And now it's of course benefited me up to this point, being a staff sergeant, that I haven't failed a test since. But I had to take an L in order to learn that. Well, you're in a perfect place right now to develop those skills and to actually hone in and learn the actual details of how your mind works and how you retain information. And from there, you're able to succeed even more thoroughly and more effectively when you enter different pipelines, such as, Air Force basic training or the DEP program, or studying for ASVAB, or going officer route. Maybe you might go to JRTC, a college or what have you. You might go to the Air Force Academy. You're young. So that means you have options. You have time. So make sure you're maximizing those options. Talk to recruiters as early as possible. Talk to them about your ambitions, what your actual plans are, concerning an Air Force career, if that's what you want to do. Ask questions. Obviously, you're here listening to someone who's in the Air Force right now. If I were you, I would try to go the officer route. You're young enough. You have time. There might be a chance that you can get into the Air Force Academy, which is very prestigious. 1% of Americans join the Air Force. Even less than that are officers, and even less than that went to the academy. So just realize the opportunity ahead of you is that you have time. Make sure you're minimizing your mistakes. Don't be doing no foolishness that might derail your path in life. Not saying that the Air Force is all there is, because there's many different ways to be successful in one's life, especially starting at 16 years old and you're already seeking wisdom from those who are ahead of you. That's the best route to take, is to seek wisdom and then make as least amount of mistakes, or the smallest possible mistakes as you progress through life. But definitely seek wisdom and focus on what's ahead of you right now, what's in front of you right now. Focus on school, maximizing those grades. Obviously, school is kind of a relative measurement of one's intelligence, but that's the pipeline you're in. You need a high school diploma, just about anything after that. So make sure you're maximizing that. Talking to recruiters, doing your research as you're doing here. And I think you made mention of talking to me on Insta. Yeah, hit me up on IG or whatever, you have any questions or whatnot. I have one-on-one sessions available. See the links in the description. Also, you can hit the link in my description on Instagram. You'll see one-on-one sessions available there as well. But yeah, hit me up if you have like quick questions, because I will be able to address those. But as far as like a one-on-one long-term session, that might be a whole thing. So hope that helps. Focus on what's in front of you right now. Don't get overloaded with so much foresight that you lose track of what's important right now. So yeah, hope that helps. Thank you everyone who has been watching, everyone who participated. Hope you guys learned something from this. This is one of my favorite live streams I've done. Mainly because it was just a different topic in the beginning. It wasn't just all Air Force stuff. It was something I want to talk about. Actually, it was something that I was intrigued by. Just earlier in the day, where it was a good topic. CIA stuffs wisdom from someone who served in such a weird, and kind of closed off, hidden, career field such as the CIA. So it's definitely interesting. It's something I definitely enjoyed, consuming and watching. So hope you guys got something from that, and I will see y'all in the next video. So it was good.